on this Thursday.
Wagyu, what's good?
What's up, my brothers? What's happening? What's happening? Let's get this thing popping. Ain't no stopping. We got 2 hours. We about to get rocking. I'm feeling like
he's being nice now. There's not going to be any niceties from now on between these two. We got an action-packed show coming your way. As a matter of fact, we are 1 week away from the beginning of the NFL season. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on one side. You got the Dallas Cowboys on the other side. The Tampa Times trying to do something that has not been done since, well, Tom Brady did it back in the early Patriot days. That is repeat as Super Bowl champions. A 44-year-old quarterback trying to lead his team to do that. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, you got Dak Prescott. We all remember the injury that he had last year, knocking him out for the Dallas Cowboys. And he's already dealt with several injury issues, beginning from last season and lasting in the training camp for the Dallas Cowboys. It is all about the running game and Ezekiel Elliott. He is entering into his 6th NFL season, only 26 years of age, but he's coming off a year in which he set career lows in yards per game and also yards per rushing attempt. So, Sam Acho, I'm going to start with you. Well, next week, 7 days, I know you're excited because it's like Christmas time for you former NFL players. Is it going to be a Bucs blowout, or will the Cowboys find a way to keep this close and win the game?
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask y'all a question, right? Because y'all heard the saying, like, any given Sunday. Like, that's a real thing. Any given Sunday. You don't know who's going to win. No, the Bucs aren't going to blow out the Dallas Cowboys. Like, Dak, when healthy, the last time we saw him, 500-plus yards before the injury, the week before the injury. The 2 weeks before that, 450. You got a motivated Ezekiel Elliott. You've got a new defensive coordinator. And so I understand Tom Brady is a Super Bowl champion. I also understand they're returning all 22 starters. I get that. I also get that last preseason game, Tom Brady looked phenomenal. But this is the NFL. It's not college. It's not high school. It's not middle school or pee-wee. NFL football, anybody can win at any given time.
Yeah, we're going to start off agreeing so we can get people eased into the show today. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout either. And it's because, it's because of how Dallas is going to be built this year. And they know what Tampa has on the other side defensively, especially with Devin White, Levante David, Vita Vea back healthy at the beginning of the season and surrounded by all of those guys. But this Dallas Cowboy team will have its first opportunity to show you why the struggles were happening last year because of the offensive line. And listen, I want Tyron Smith against Barrett or Jason Pierre-Paul. I feel good about Zach Martin being in the middle against Vita Vea. I feel good about Lyle Collins coming back at the right tackle spot and holding that edge down. And Zeke Elliott, to your point, Freddie, what you brought us in on this conversation about, the games will be played different. It is not healthy, not conducive for your quarterback, which Dak was the first 5 games of the season last year, to be trending for throwing for 7,000 yards. That means you playing from behind 90% of the game. And I don't think they allow that to happen this year, especially Mike McCarthy.
Here's the deal, and you guys bring up the points in terms of it's all about the quarterbacks. We know that. But how many times we heard that if a quarterback doesn't have a strong running game, they're not going to be an effective quarterback. It is really essential for the Dallas Cowboys to be that team, especially reducing the stress on Dak Prescott coming off an injury in training camp and also from last year. Tom Brady knew what that felt like last year, guys, when Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl because the running game was so good helping him out where he did not have to do everything. So in terms of breaking a tie, I don't want to be that tiebreaker. I'm going to be that tiebreaker. I think it's more likely that the Cowboys keep this a little close. Here's why. You guys know this. Opening day of the NFL season, everybody really does not have their sea legs yet, and that could play into the Cowboys' advantage. Maybe not to win the game, but not be blown out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trying to make it back-to-back.
Yeah, I'm with that. And the only thing I'll say is this. Like, I get how good Tampa Bay is. Like, we all get that. But people, I feel like, are sleeping on the Dallas Cowboys. The reason Dallas was so bad, yes, Zeke was fumbling the ball all the time. Zeke is now motivated again. The reason they were so bad, they had the 28th or 29th ranked defense last year. Dan Quinn is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. I'm not talking about head coach, I'm talking about coordinating a defense. Then you got some pieces, right? You have pieces on that Dallas Cowboys defense that will make them more competitive. And it's week 1. Nobody knows what's going to happen with that Tom Brady offense.
Sam Macho, what you trying to do to me this morning, man? We brought on this show to debate and disagree. What are you doing right now, bro? I don't even know how to respond to this. This is like, Freddie, this is like walking into the house of your enemy and they have cookies for you laid out fresh out of the oven. And you confused. You came ready to fight and now y'all got friendship going and you're starting to realize, are we friends? Or
hold on.
So, come here to do a job. But
so
I'm
Freddie,
sure
what you
get
got
there later.
Freddie, what you got for us next? What you got for us next?
Well, put it this way. I'm about to put a stake in that whole friendly thing going on here between you two because you got Dak Prescott at quarterback. He signed all that money, got that guarantee money from the Dallas Cowboys. But he's coached by Mike McCarthy. A lot of people did not believe he should be the head coach. They thought the Dallas Cowboys should have gone another direction. So, Mr. Friendly Marcus Spears, who has more at stake, not just for game 1 in 7 days, but for the season? Is it Dak Prescott with the contract or Mike McCarthy under fire?
It's Mike McCarthy. His job on the line. And listen, we could talk about on the field. Obviously, that's Dak because he's executing and having to play. But the bottom line is, if there is not marketable improvement by this Dallas Cowboys football team, it'll be on Mike McCarthy's shoulder. If Dak doesn't play well, it'll be Mike McCarthy and Kellerman more under more pressure than Dak Prescott. And the one thing we all have to identify when we have this discussion about the pressure between Dak and Mike McCarthy, Dak has been there and has played at a very high level. So the Cowboys are not questioning whether Dak can play at a high level. They're questioning whether Mike McCarthy can get not only Dak, but the rest of this team to play at a high level. The pressure is mounting on Mike McCarthy because of last year, mismanagement in certain situations, obviously bringing in Mike Nolan under his own advice and having an abysmal defense like they had last year. He built enough bad things last year to put himself under this type of pressure. And now you get your quarterback back. Now you got your offensive line back. Now you got Zeke Elliott back in great shape. CeeDee Lamb, a year removed from being a rookie who put up a phenomenal year last year. Mike McCarthy has the pressure squarely on his circle and not on their shoulders. And not only that, you bring in Dan Quinn, and the expectation, just like Acho just said, is for this defense to be better. The pressure is on Mike McCarthy. And look, let me just get rid of the elephant in the room. The reason the pressure is on Mike McCarthy, because Dak just got $140 million guaranteed. And we all know damn well the money is going to last longer than the feelings. And Mike McCarthy may be on feelings more than he getting paid in this paycheck.
Absolutely, but Swagoo, you know more than anybody, that paycheck means something. When those checks start cashing, people start looking at you different. I got a question for you. Who has a ring? Who has a Super Bowl ring out of the two that we're talking about?
Mike McCarthy, but
Mike McCarthy.
Come on,
but I'm saying this: they hired him. They hired him. Jerry Jones hired him because it's like, man, come bring us this ring like you brought Green Bay. Mike McCarthy has a ring. Dak just got paid. Right, Dak got paid. Dak was healthy last year. Will Dak be healthy again? Will Dak take them to the playoffs and maybe even more? Like, Dak has to go improve that. So when I'm talking about pressure, yes, Mike McCarthy, I get it, right? You got to be the leader of the team. You got to take the team to the promised land. I get that. But also, Dak is the one who's cashing those $140 million guaranteed checks, number one. Number two, if Dak doesn't do it this year, and if the injuries are mounting, and if he's not still healthy, I've got questions on, okay, what does that look like for him and the pressure that he faces?
Yeah, but Sacho, you got to remember, bro, I spent 8 years in Dallas, and you know what happened throughout that 8-year tender? Tony Romo outlasted every damn head coach we had. And that's Bill Parcells, that's Wade Phillips, and it would have been Jason Garrett if he wouldn't have tore his back up in a football game. We understand the pressure that's on the player, especially the quarterback spot, especially in Dallas. It's the most polarizing position in the NFL. Yeah, we talk about Tom Brady, and because he the GOAT, and we living in an era where the greatest of all time is playing at the quarterback position, so that dominates. But if it's not equal, we know right under Tom Brady, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback position is one of the most polarizing positions in the NFL. That position, if a guy has shown that he can play at a high level, is going to outlast the head coach. It's not close, my brother. Mike McCarthy is under the most pressure. You know why? Because he may be back in his living room fake game planning the coach for another team in a year based on how this season goes.
Here's something else for you gentlemen and both of you guys in terms of Marcus, you know about playing in Dallas, Sam Macho playing in the NFL. A lot of this is on Jerry Jones because it's one thing to give Dak Prescott that money, and he earned that money in my opinion. But you try to sell everybody that we need the anti-Jason Garrett, and now you bring the Mike McCarthy. This has been a Dallas Cowboys organization that has not won a Super Bowl championship since 1996. The last time they won a Super Bowl championship, gas was free in this country. That's how long it's been for the Dallas Cowboys winning a championship.
Freddie, hold on. Freddie, hold on, man. Hold on, man. You going too hard on us.
I knew I was going to get him. I knew I was going to get him.
You going too hard on us. We can play some good football in that span, man.
No, I'm not saying that, but when you're America's team and you have an owner like Jerry Jones, you ratchet up the expectations and you also ratchet up the criticisms if you don't win a championship like they have not won since 1996. Jerry Jones doesn't want to hear that because he knows he's the star in the star. But at a certain point, you can't keep recycling coaches trying to win that elusive championship that you have not won since 1996.
That's no doubt, Freddie, but the expectation. Oh, go ahead, Sacho. My bad.
You got it. You got it.
You guys are too friendly. Pick one.
No, Freddie, you make a great point, right? Obviously, like that's a great point that you made. But here's the deal. When it comes to Jerry, and Jerry said that I give up anything to win a Super Bowl. That pressure was immediately carried over to the coach. Because the one thing that Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones and the brass at Dallas did was they identified, after a long stretch of us talking about what the hell is going on with Dak Prescott, they finally identified we got a franchise guy that plays at a high enough level to get us to a Super Bowl and potentially win one. The pressure squarely lies on Mike McCarthy. And even to compound, and Freddie, you helped me make my point. Mike McCarthy will be another one of those names added to the list of graveyards of head coaches if he cannot accomplish what they think they can accomplish. And I'm not sure if Jerry feels like the defense is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I'm not sure if he feels like Dan Quinn is going to get it all right in the first year. But you know what I'm sure of? Jerry is betting on that offense being elite. He's betting on them being a top 5 unit in the NFL. And if they are not, we all know between Kellerman and Mike McCarthy that it's going to rain down not only from the media, it's going to rain down from Jerry Jones.
Yeah, and they'll get the blame, right? Like Mike McCarthy may get the blame. Kellen Moore may get the blame as offensive coordinator. But if Dak doesn't perform for what you expected, yes, I understand he's getting paid, so he's not going anywhere. Like the money's guaranteed. But if Dak doesn't perform, you might fire coaches, you might fire coordinators, but that star still shines bright in Dallas, and it's going to shine right on that quarterback.
Either way, it's a tricky situation at the Death Star, championship or no championship, when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Another team thinking about making sure they can win a championship are the Baltimore Ravens. They were able to move first-round pick Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota to the reserve injured list. He will be required to miss at least the first 3 weeks of the regular season, but he will be eligible to return in week number 4. Also, the Baltimore Ravens will be down 2 of their top offensive weapons this season. Man, they lost a big-time running back in J.K. Dobbins towards ACL. He was ready to have another breakout season. He suffered that in the preseason. So you lose him in addition to Rashad Bateman and also Lamar Jackson still trying to prove to people that he can be enough quarterback to get this team to a championship when it's all said and done. Either way, the Ravens are still talented, but losing 2 weapons like that, one for the rest of the season, they'll try to do all of this as they try to recover from a groin injury when it comes to Rashad Bateman, and we'll see if he's going to be able to do that. So, Marcus, I'm going to start with you. We know Lamar Jackson does not mind pressure. He welcomes the pressure being a Baltimore Ravens quarterback. Is there more or less pressure on him this season, especially not having Rashad Bateman at the beginning and J.K. Dobbins all year long?
It's absolutely more, Freddie. And listen, explain something to everybody right now. Lamar Jackson can't allow Josh Allen to beat him in the playoffs. Like, we already had him trying to get over Patrick Mahomes. We already had him trying to get over that Kansas City Chiefs monster. And then we know what happened and transpired in playoff years prior to against the Titans and other teams like that. So, listen, last year, Lamar Jackson, the pressure mounted when he lost to the Buffalo Bills. And they only scored 3 points in that playoff game. Now, listen, I'm one of the guys that believes Lamar Jackson can throw the football at a high enough clip in order for the Baltimore Ravens to have success in that facet of their game. Greg Roman talked about it this offseason. We need to evolve. We're gonna focus on the passing game. They did. They went out and got Sammy Watkins. Obviously, you talked about Bateman, who's injured, who won't be there for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is not only entering the contract, he's going to get the contract. Everybody understands the talent that Lamar Jackson has. But when we start talking about pressure, the one thing we got to identify is knowing Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson wants to win a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson is not happy with winning a bunch of games during the season. That's what Baltimore has done since he's been there. He's not happy with getting through the first round of the playoffs. But pressure is mounting because these young quarterbacks, these guys that are along with him in his class, Baker Mayfields of the world, Josh Allen's of the world. We know what Patrick Mahomes is in Kansas City. Those are the three guys right now that we're identifying as nemesis, people that you're going to have to get over. And not so much about them being that much more talented than Lamar Jackson, but y'all know where these conversations gonna go if he don't get over the hump and at least get to an AFC championship. Y'all all know we gonna get to the point where it's gonna be Justin Herbert, it's gonna be Josh Allen, it's gonna be Patrick Mahomes, it's gonna be guys in the NFC, because Lamar has put himself in that tier of guys that we feel like can honestly lead his team to a Super Bowl, even if things are not all the way right with the team going into a game. Last year, beat Baker Mayfield in the regular season, came back after having their doo-doo during a time in the game. He had to come back and put a show on. But the bottom line is this, man. Lamar Jackson pressure is mounting because quarterbacks in his division are getting better. And one quarterback in particular in Buffalo went further than him in the playoffs. Now, I know that has a lot to do with the team, and nobody is saying that the Ravens doesn't have a good team. The Ravens are built well, but they need to evolve in this passing game. Lamar Jackson needs to show that he can push that ball downfield, because if you start to lose steps, it's other dudes that's gaining. Remember, y'all, the conversation was Lamar, can he get over Patrick Mahomes? Now is, can he get over Mahomes? Can he get over Josh Allen? And look at what Cleveland is doing with Baker Mayfield and the rest of this football team, and not to mention the Steelers. And I know Big Ben, people are writing him off. I'm not. I think the Steelers are going to be good. Lamar Jackson is under some pressure. Even though we love him, even though his talent is unbelievable and the things we've seen and the MVP, it's other dudes coming, and he going to have to outrun them. Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, but Swagoo, you know this probably more than anybody else. Some people feel pressure, and some people apply pressure. Like some people, when the moments get big and the lights get bright, they feel the pressure, they dwindle down. Other people, they live up to the moment, they apply that pressure. Lamar Jackson doesn't feel pressure, he applies it. He applies it. I remember when he got drafted. Remember, they traded up. Baltimore traded back up to the 32nd pick in the first round. People were saying Lamar couldn't be a quarterback, couldn't throw all these things. And what did Lamar Jackson say on draft night? He said all these comments that people have been saying, what do you got to say? He said, I'm going to make them eat their words. I'm going to make them eat their words. And what did he do? He went out. He played phenomenal, right? But all of a sudden now you got to go to the playoffs, win a playoff game. What did he do? He went out, and before that, went out, showed he could actually throw the ball as a quarterback. He proved that. Goes and wins a playoff game. Goes and wins an MVP, right? All the things that people say he can't do, Lamar continually does over and over and over again. And then this offseason, just a few weeks ago, the news cycle, ESPN, whoever was talking about it, reporters or even people on teams, unknown sources talking about Lamar Jackson has been figured out. That was the talk of the town. We figured out Lamar Jackson. We know we figured him out.
Yeah.
Right? And what was his response? Lamar Jackson wasn't like, oh, no, figure him out. He said, we'll see. We'll see. I believe that Lamar Jackson this year, with an offseason, with OTAs, with training camp, right? Last year, COVID didn't have any of that. With all of that, will rise to the occasion. He does not feel pressure. And so on the outside, you might say, well, there's pressure because of Baker Mayfield, or maybe there's pressure because Big Ben is in that division. Maybe there's pressure because Patrick Mahomes. But all those things that people said that Lamar Jackson couldn't do, which to your point, they said he couldn't do, he has consistently done. And people who consistently do what you say, what some people say that you couldn't do, those types of people aren't feeling pressure. They're applying it and they're rising to the occasion.
Think about the first two games. Real quick, Swagoo. Think about the first two games he'll play. Monday night versus Las Vegas and then the Kansas City Chiefs. Those two games on national television, one on Monday night, one on Sunday night. He'll have plenty of opportunities, guys, to show people that he is impervious to pressure, or if the pressure got to him not having those two weapons at the beginning of the year.
But that ain't the question. The question ain't about Lamar Jackson and how he handles pressure. We all know Lamar Jackson can overcome pressure. The question is, more or less pressure on Lamar Jackson now? Hell yes. All right? Because winning is how Lamar Jackson will be identified. We know Lamar Jackson can play at a high level. We know he can play under pressure. We know that he can overcome a lot of things on the football field. But let me remind you guys, back to the question, more or less pressure on Lamar Jackson now. Lamar Jackson went up to Buffalo, and the Baltimore Ravens scored 3 points. 3. in a playoff game, and he lost to a quarterback where 2 years ago people were saying he's not going to even be around. So I get that Lamar Jackson and his mentality, he's been doing it since he was at Louisville. Like, to be honest with you, he's been doing it his entire life. People thought he supposed to play wide receiver or put him at another position. Lamar Jackson had his mom as his agent. Lamar Jackson is fine with pressure. Nobody questions that. But pressure also comes in the form of, what did you do? How did you compete against your peers and counterparts? Did you overcome them? I'm not saying he's going to rip off 4 or 5, but as Lamar Jackson continues to grow and mature and get older and older and own this position of quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, like I said before, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes ain't going nowhere. Josh Allen ain't going nowhere. Justin Herbert ain't going nowhere. Baker Mayfield and what they doing in Cleveland ain't going anywhere. Aaron Rodgers still out there. Lamar Jackson gonna be judged on championships, fellas. It ain't about if Lamar Jackson a good player. I think the consensus is yes. But the bottom line is, each year that pressure is gonna mount because dudes are coming. Dudes are playing better. Teams are positioning themselves to win Super Bowls. And ultimately, that's how we gonna judge Lamar Jackson. Eventually in his career, we gonna say he's done so much statistically. He's done so much great play wise. He's done so much in coming back in the regular season and maybe a round or 2 in the playoffs, but he doesn't have a Super Bowl. It's the same tag we would have put on Drew Brees with all of his greatness. If he don't win the Super Bowl, we have an absolute different discussion about who he is as a quarterback. Lamar Jackson is about to enter that discussion.
So what happens if Baker doesn't win one? What happens if Josh Allen doesn't win one, right? They're all in this same conversation. I feel like it sounds like you're putting all these people in a tier, and Lamar's not in that tier. Where I'm saying, no, Lamar is in that same tier. Obviously, they got beat last year, so you go and address it, right? You address it by getting Tylan Wallace. You address it by getting Rashad Bateman. You address it by getting Sammy Watkins. You address it, and yes, we know that Rashad Bateman is out for the first couple weeks. We understand that. But I feel like in that same conversation of all these people who have, what it sounds like you're saying is, have surpassed him, they haven't reached that pinnacle either. And so yes, you could say that there is pressure on Lamar Jackson. I get that. But if you're saying that, then that same pressure has to exist for Josh Allen, because he hasn't won a Super Bowl dramatically. That same pressure has to exist for Baker Mayfield, because he hasn't won one. That same pressure has to exist for the entire category. He's not and I think we're saying the same thing, that yes, he is in that same category. But when it comes to feeling he's not, and I'm saying the same thing, but he doesn't feel that pressure. I think he rises to the occasion with that team. And I think Baltimore is ready to go and make some noise, even when it comes to playing teams like the Buffalo Bills.
We shall see, because everybody's trying to catch Patrick Mahomes in the AFC and Tom Brady in the NFC. And that gap, they want to make sure gets wider and wider as they keep getting better and better. In the case of Tom Brady, he's going to play quarterback till he's 80 years of age. He's never going to retire. Speaking of quarterbacks, everyone knows Danger Russ and the Seattle Seahawks will be good this year. But should we be taking them or talking about them more as a legit Super Bowl contender in the NFC? Sleeping on Seattle. Meanwhile, in Miami, the head coach delivers a clear message about Tua Tagovailoa. What he said and how Tua responded as Miami gets closer to their Week 1 showdown versus the Patriots. That's next on First Take. Back to the National Football League, and Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is entering his second year. But a lot of people don't seem to like him after an up-and-down rookie season. But despite those struggles last year and those rumors that they want somebody else, Coach Brian Flores is adamant that Tua is his starting quarterback and his guy.
I will say that Tua is our quarterback. I think he's had a good training camp. I think he's made a lot of progress. I think he's made a lot of improvement. We're pleased with where he is, and he's going about his preparations for New England the way he should be. I don't know if I can be more clear. I mean, I don't know how many times you want to say it, I don't know how much more clear I can be here. Tua's a starter.
I think it means a lot with it coming from the head coach, the support that I have from him, from the team. It means a lot. But for me, I'm just focused literally on trying to get our guys ready for next week.
A lot of uncomfortable comfort going on there down in Miami if Tua's going to be the guy and getting the support from the coaches. So, Sam, I'm going to start with you. This team came that close to being a playoff team in the AFC East. Are they a playoff team in Tua Tagovailoa's second year?
No, they're not. And let me tell you why. You said they came that close to being a playoff team. In the games, Week 17, the game they had to win to get in a lot of ways, they lost by 30. Lost by 30. And so that's number one. Number two, Swagoo, I just heard you talk about all these great quarterbacks in the AFC. You talked about Baker Mayfield. You talked about Lamar Jackson. You talked about Josh Allen. You talked about Justin Herbert. You talked about all these quarterbacks. And Tua's not in that conversation. So when it comes to like Miami making the playoffs, like I was hoping they would make it last year. Yes, a top 6 defense in the NFL. Their defense is phenomenal. But with or without Tua, this team has to prove to me that they can make the playoffs when it counts. We saw Indy get in last year when it counted. We saw Baltimore get in last year when it counted. All those teams that are on the brink. Yes, we know the top 3 or 4 are automatically going to make it. We know that. But when it counts, when it matters, when the game is on the line the most, Miami didn't do it. Miami didn't do it. And so if you got, whether it's Tua or whoever else, I don't care who's back there, Miami didn't do it. And so when you go back and turn the tape on and say, okay, I want to see who's going to be there when it counts, when it matters, I'm picking Pittsburgh. I'm picking Cleveland. Even now, I'm picking Cleveland. I'm picking Tennessee. I'm picking even the Colts. Like, there are so many teams where you say they would do it over Miami. And so just statistically by the numbers and saying, man, 7 get in, I don't think Miami's in that top 7.
I do. And the reason I do is because of defense. Like, everybody makes this whole thing about Tua and everything. I think the Miami Dolphins are now starting to hit a stride. And last year, when they were going back and forth with Fitzmagic and Tua, that is not conducive to any type of continuity. I love Gesicki. I think Jalen Waddle is going to change the whole dynamic of what they do from an offensive standpoint. And I'm one of those guys that think Tua is going to be a really good quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. I was high on Tua coming out of college. I thought he had to make some improvement like all other rookies. But when I look at Brian Flores and when I look at what Chris Greer, the general manager, has done, and you think about what these dudes did defensively last year, I believe Tua will be a better quarterback with the time that he's had in this system. I believe his defense will be even better this year when you start talking about getting Xavier Howard back. That was the key for me this offseason. Will they be able to manage that relationship, get it to a place where they can get one of the top corners in the league, if not the best corner? He's the best at taking the football away. And you see what they were able to accomplish last year in a crazy year. And the craziness for me about Tua is this dude, I believe, has thrown like 540 passes total in his career, and we ready to send him to the crib. He ain't good enough. He doesn't have what it takes because it wasn't sizzling. It wasn't coming out of the gate hot. It just wasn't one of those things. And Justin Herbert balled out in Los Angeles with the Chargers. The bottom line is this. When you look at the Miami Dolphins team and how they're constructed, they're built almost in the same image of the New England Patriots. And I believe that wild card spot will be there up for grabs when it's all said and done at the end of the season. Playmaking was their issue from an offensive standpoint. Tua is good enough. Arm is right. Jalen Waddle in this offense. Gesicki coming back. These guys are going to surprise some people. And look, I'm going to say this now. I do believe the New England Patriots are going to vie to win the AFC East. I do think this team and what they did, and it ain't all about Mac Jones. Everybody know I'm on record. Mac Jones has been phenomenal, but he'll be insulated by what Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels does from a philosophy standpoint and how they want to play football. But when you get to the point where you got to play the Miami Dolphins, and if Tua is playing at a little above average, you know how tough that out going to be to get through that defense? And Lord have mercy, don't let them start scoring points offensively. I think people forgot how good the Miami Dolphins defense was last year because we got so enamored with what was happening with the Buffalo Bills. The bottom line is this. Tua takes a step. I think he's in that same line with all of these other young guys in the league that can play at a high level. And this defense will carry the Miami Dolphins. I think one of the wild card spots will be occupied by them. And I wouldn't be shocked if it's because Tua played well and that defense was lights out.
Real quick, and Marcus, you can start first, and Sam, you can jump in after this. How much pressure is going to be ratcheted on, not so much Tua Tagovailoa, but maybe the Dolphins organization by what Justin Herbert did in year 1 for the Chargers and what the Patriots are doing in year 1, having Mac Jones as their starting quarterback and not Cam Newton?
More about Justin Herbert, Freddie C, because that's the comparison, right? When these guys were coming out of the draft, so many questions about Justin Herbert, what he would be on the next level. He was athletic. He was in an Oregon offense that didn't allow him to have all of the gaudy numbers. Tua at Alabama. Threw for 1 million yards, won national championships. We talked about his arm strength, his ability to place the ball. We talked about all those things. Suffers an injury, right? And people start, hey, where is he going to go now? Is the injury going to cause Tua to drop? No, Miami said, look, we've seen enough of Tua Tagovailoa to make sure that he's in the right situation. And listen, I wasn't in love with what Brian Flores did last year. I wasn't in love with the fact that they had to split time and he never knew if he was going to be in a full game or people don't know how difficult it is if you're not playing well in the first quarter. You looking over your shoulder wondering if they're going to send the vet in. That's not conducive to having success in this league. I'm not talking about a 2-quarterback system. It's a totally different thing than what they did in Miami last year. Tua now, this is his team. He talked about it. Flores has promoted him, talked about he's the guy, he's preparing to get the fellas ready. It's about Justin Herbert and Tua when we have the long conversation. But right now, when we look at this division and what the New England Patriots did and how everybody is excited about Mac Jones being a quarterback, Tua gets a little lost. But remember this. Brian Flores coached for the New England Patriots. Brian Flores has a quarterback from Alabama. And you don't think Nick Saban's phone worked when Brian Flores called, just like it works when Bill Belichick calls? They have a great understanding about what Tua is going to be in this offense. And I think they just playing coy right now.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Swagoo, but the issue I have is this. You talked about Miami's defense, and I'm not sleeping on Miami's defense. They have a top defense in the NFL. But also all the other teams in that division. I mean, in the AFC, go to Pittsburgh, they got a top defense. Go to Baltimore, they got a top 3, top 5 defense. Go to Buffalo, they got a top 7 defense, right? All those teams, they have top defenses as well. And then I go to, okay, if the defenses are similar, you go to the quarterback. Pittsburgh, Big Ben, quarterback, right? That's a healthy Big Ben. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, quarterback, right? And you go to Buffalo, Josh Allen. So, not everyone can make the dance. And we saw it last year. It was close last year. It was really close. And people were thinking, Miami, I think, had the 5th spot in Week 17. Number 5, got to win that game. Maybe you'll get in. And they lose by 30. And whether it's because of coaching, whether it's because there's not enough trust in Tua and there was going back between Tua and Fitzmagic, they lost that game when it mattered. And so their defense is phenomenal. That's not the question. Tua, I think, will have a good season. That's not the question. But it comes down to, that culture and that belief that you're going to win. Baltimore believes they're going to win when it counts. They remember what you do in December. Baltimore believes. Pittsburgh, we saw last year, started off 11-0. Man, we're great. And they started struggling. They still made it in the dance, right? All these teams, even Buffalo, you think New England's going to win that division. I think that division is Buffalo's hands down. Hands down. And so, these teams have already surpassed, in my opinion, Miami. So Miami, I think, is on that brink, and they'll be right there at the end. But until they do it, until they prove it, I'm not believing it.
A lot of young guns in the AFC East, all under 26 years of age. You got Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and also Zach Wilson. That's going to be a very interesting division for a long time. Good stuff, guys. With all the firepower on Seattle's offensive side of the football, are we talking about the Seattle Seahawks enough as a legit Super Bowl contender out of the NFC? Don't miss that debate. Plus, of all the playoff teams from last season, which is most likely to miss the playoffs? And Dan Graziano, ESPN NFL analyst, has predicted one for each team. For Russell Wilson and Seattle Seahawks, it'll be an uphill battle as they're one of the toughest divisions, if not the toughest division in the NFL when it comes to NFC West. But that did not stop Dan predicting this in his .com article. Don't be surprised if Russell Wilson sets a career high in passing yards. Not too many people predicting that. So, gentlemen, are we sleeping on Russ and the Seahawks? Sam, you first.
No, we're not sleeping on the Seahawks. We need to stay asleep. There's nothing going on in Seattle. And let me tell you why. First of all the teams we've been talking about, for good reason, in the NFC West are really, really good teams. San Francisco last year, everyone was injured. The year before, they were in the Super Bowl. LA Rams, right? Everybody, what's going on with LA? Now they got a quarterback. That's already just in that division, first and foremost. We're still figuring out what's up with Kyler Murray. But the talent on the Arizona Cardinals roster, that's one of the, if not the most talented when it comes to players on that roster. J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, talent. Zaven Collins, talent on the roster. Not even talking about offense, right? D-Hop, talent. A.J. Green. The list goes on and on. And so when you talk about who's going to be in the playoffs, first of all, they're not winning the division. Seattle is. And then I go to wild card. Okay, so let's think about wild card. Who's making the wild card And when it comes to that last spot, I have Chicago Bears over the Seattle Seahawks in that last wild card spot in the playoffs. So we're not sleeping on Seattle. We're sleeping on Chicago and those Bears. I don't know what's up there, bro. I don't know what you're looking at.
You know what, man? Sometimes I just, y'all my colleagues, and I love y'all, but sometimes I'm just flabbergasted at the things that come out of y'all mouth, man.
Wait a minute,
just
don't blame me. He
told us
said it.
That no, not you, Freddie. I'm talking to Sacho. You just told us you got the Bears going with Andy Dalton over Russ and the Seattle Seahawks. Is that what you just said? I just want everybody to know that that's what you just said.
This is exactly what I just said, Swagoo. The Chicago Bears last year were in the playoffs. One of those teams, who's going to make it, who's not. Mm-hmm. They made it over Arizona, right? Over Arizona, Seattle was in there as well. The defense that was trash last year, they were average, below average last year, has a defensive coordinator who's a Vic Fangio disciple, Sean Desai. I played for him back in 2018. Phenomenal DC. By the way, Eddie Goldman, you're a D lineman.
They've been good on defense.
Eddie Goldman, they will be great on defense.
They've been good on defense.
They will be great on defense. Offensively, the questions we have, okay, offensive line, or our bad offensive line. They have no offensive line. I'm not even talking about the addition of Jason Peters, but I'm talking about the running back in David Montgomery. He's third in the NFL in broken tackles behind Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry.
Baller.
Allen Robinson at receiver, one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. Baller. So the last question that leaves us is at quarterback. And Matt Nagy has said, according to his plan, that for now, Andy Dalton is the quarterback. He said we want to see him in the regular season. You've got you know more than anybody. The season is divided into quarters. First 4 games, second 4, third 4. Andy Dalton's probably going to start those first 4 games. Second 4 games, right? That second quarter or so, games 5, 6, 7. A buzzsaw. You got San Francisco. You got Green Bay. You got Tampa Bay, and really 6, 7, and 8. Buzzsaw. Justin Fields will see the field. Trust me, he will see the field, and when he sees the field, that team will get hot, and that team will make a run and be in the playoffs.
Sacho, you know who's gonna get hot and make a run? Who? The damn Seattle Seahawks. Because we done seen them do it every year with Russell Wilson at quarterback and DK Metcalf at wide receiver. And what they did from an offensive line standpoint when Russ fake threatened that he was going to leave if he didn't get more protection. Jamal Adams was unhealthy for a large majority of that season last year. They got better defensively down the stretch. They still have a ways to go. But I have not seen Russell Wilson disappear off of the Seattle Seahawks roster. I still believe he's the starting quarterback for them. Freddie C., correct me if I'm wrong. Because if Russell Wilson ain't starting for him, then me and Sacho on the same page. But I think and will contend that I'm going to go with that situation way faster then I'm going to go with the situation in Chicago. One, because Pete Carroll is a hell of a coach. He's proven it over time. I don't know what Matt Nagy is. They've been going to the playoffs. They've been sneaking in. A lot of that has to do with how terrible their division has been beyond the Green Bay Packers as well. I do believe the Minnesota Vikings are going to be the second best team, if not challenged for winning that division this year. I've said it before. I'm not relenting on that. I do think Chicago would be in this conversation if Justin Fields was starting now. If he was getting in there now and getting those reps to get prepared for when week 4 comes. See, everybody got this misnomer that, he going to sit down and watch football, and then when the hard part of the schedule comes, we going to put him in and be a better football team. I don't know where that train of thought comes from. I thought reps made you a better football player, especially in the NFL. But now we go to Seattle, where they've been doing it every single year. And you gonna come on this show, Sam Macho, and tell us Andy Dalton-led offense with the Chicago Bears is going to go to the playoffs before a Russell Wilson-led offense and a defense that will be better improved than Seattle. No matter what their division is, it's still gonna be tough for every team in that division because Seattle gonna have something to say about it. I ain't writing off nobody in that division, in the NFC West. But I'm especially not writing off the team led by Russell Wilson, man.
Right, but you talked about two things. One thing you talked about was the defense. You said they got better down the stretch. That Chicago defense is not getting better down the stretch. They're going to be dominant. And yes, of course, Russell Wilson versus Andy Dalton. You're picking Russell Wilson every day of the week. That ends in Y. There's no question about that. And no, I'm not saying that Justin Fields is going to go in when that buzzsaw happens. Maybe he'll go in week 8. Maybe he'll be earlier. Who knows when it happens? But when he goes in, he will make a run. We all saw what happened back in 2012 or so when Colin Kaepernick got into the game for Alex Smith. And all of a sudden, the San Francisco team that had a really, really good defense, but was somewhat stagnant on offense, made a run. All of a sudden, that run took them to the Super Bowl with a guy like Colin Kaepernick. We all saw it, maybe not comparable, but a little bit similar with Kansas City. Alex Smith, once again, on that team, he did well. All of a sudden, you put in a guy like Patrick Mahomes. All of a sudden, they're in the Super Bowl again. So I'm not sitting here and saying Andy Dalton-led team is going to lead Chicago to the playoffs. I don't think Andy Dalton's going to lead that team when playoff time comes. I don't think Andy Dalton's going to be leading that team come halfway through the season or so. But when Justin Fields gets in, right? And yes, I understand reps matter. You said that as well. But it's also mental reps, right? Mental reps matter as well. Learning how to take care of your body matters as well. A 17-game season matters as well. So sometimes, yeah, we go in and, yeah, sure, put him in the game early. Let him take all those hits early. Okay, cool. But what if we sat back, and not even him to sat back from a player standpoint, what about a game plan standpoint, Swagoo? What about, teams been game planning for an Andy Dalton-led Chicago Bears team for 8 weeks, for 6 weeks, for 9 weeks. All of a sudden, post-bye week,
Sacho,
you bring in a weapon.
We never going to be in agreement that Andy Dalton should be starting. Like that, but that's not the conversation we having.
Yes.
We having a conversation, and you're comparing that situation to Russell Wilson. Which playoff team won't be back this season? You gonna say the team with Russell Wilson at quarterback won't be back, and Andy Dalton and a rookie will.
You said rookie though. Hold on. This rookie that you're talking about.
That's what you said.
You've talked about this. You don't just try and change the conversation. You said a rookie, bro.
Sacho, in comparison to Russell Wilson. We are comparing this to Russell Wilson.
But it's not just a one-player team. Every team has offense. You have defense. You have special teams. You get that, right? Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback, but Detroit ain't gone nowhere, and that's not the best comparison because I think the defense and the culture in Seattle is way better than Detroit. But one player does not make an entire team,
but that's
Swagoo.
the point. That's the point, Sacho.
What's the point?
The point is we talking about a good team with Russell Wilson is better than a good team in Chicago with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. That's my point. And you talking like the Seattle Seahawks gonna be trash. Last time I checked, they had an easier path last year because of the injuries with San Francisco, and Matt Stafford coming over to LA is a big deal. And I got LA winning that division, even though I'm wavering a little bit with San Francisco because of what I've seen them do from an offensive standpoint. But the bottom line is, we having a discussion. You said I'm taking the Chicago Bears to go before I take Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks to go. Last time I checked, Russell Wilson goes to the playoffs damn near every year, bro.
That's true. But also, who are they playing, bro? Like you said LA is going to win the division. I don't know who you have second. I mean, San Francisco probably second in that division.
You don't think a Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson led football team is good enough to get in a wild card spot in the NFC?
I think it's going to come down to that wild card, and I really do.
Okay,
I really do.
Man.
We'll see. By the way, Marcus,
Freddie Hill.
Pete Carroll just called me. He said Russell Wilson is still his starting quarterback, so he wanted to alleviate any fear. So he just got in touch with me on my phone. He said, "Freddie, let Marcus and Sam know that he's still my starting quarterback. There's no controversy in Seattle. I just wanted to clear that up while I was on the phone with Pete Carroll."
Hey, Freddie, I thought I was blind when it came to the Cowboys. Acho got he can't think when it comes to the Chicago Bears, man.
It's quite all right. You can be blind to your teams as long as you see the forest through the trees when it's all said and done.
I was blind last year, and then they made the playoffs. I thought they lost 5 in a row. They made the playoffs magically and miraculously. I wish I was blind. I was watching the tape, and they keep on showing up. So you tell me.
Can you imagine?
Sacho, you know that division was straight.
Either way, can you
That
imagine
division was hot trash last year,
way better
man.
now? How did they get so much better? How did Detroit get good?
No, I'm talking about the Bears. The Bears going to the playoffs benefited from a hot trash division, bro.
And the division is still hot trash,
guys, when the Bears and Cowboys meet in the playoffs in 2025, you can continue this conversation. Until then, we got to move on to other teams that actually have a chance in the playoffs, meaning Tom Brady, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Would that team with that quarterback winning again this season be the absolute best Super Bowl storyline? Sam Acho says, hell no. Wait until you hear his best Super Bowl story. That's next. And also, just how great will Zach? 1 week away. Oh, can you smell it? The National Football League kickoff. You got Tom Brady and Tampa Bay Buccaneers on one side, Dallas Cowboys on the other side. And just look at those numbers of Tom Brady. 7 Super Bowls, 3 regular season MVPs. First player to win Super Bowl MVP with 2 different teams among all those numbers. And he is not done yet because all he does is win, 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 win. Guys, he's probably going to be playing football teams 80 years of age. They're just going to wheel him out there in a wheelchair, be throwing touchdown passes when it's all said and done. So, Marcus, I'm going to start with you. Would a Brady repeat be the most compelling Super Bowl storyline?
Absolutely. About 8 at this point, Freddie. 8. Think about that. 8. 8 total Super Bowls. I think the highest franchise is 6, 7, maybe 6, 7, whatever it is. 6. Like, bro, what we in? See, this is what happens because I played for Nick Saban at LSU, and obviously I firmly believe he's the best college football coach ever to do it. But this is what happens, like especially in this generation we in now with news cycle and all of that, we get tired and we forget what we watching, and we can't forget what we watching with Tom Brady when it comes to football. And what he's accomplishing. I'm not even talking about the age, bro. If Tom Brady would have only won 5, that's phenomenal. We talking about this dude potentially going win his 8th Super Bowl. 8. I want everybody to 8 Super Bowls. You know how hard it is to make the playoffs? Just to make the playoffs, you know how difficult it is. But 8, and then we get into the legacy conversation. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to pass it to Sacho because I know y'all allotted me more time, but I know his argument is about to be dribble, and I don't care about it. But here's the deal.
Okay.
If Michael Jordan was playing in the NBA, and he was going for his 7th ring, and let's say the Detroit Pistons hadn't won in a long time, and now they going for their championship. Who will we cover more, Freddie?
Michael Jordan.
Okay, go ahead, Sacho.
Swagger, phenomenal. You answered the question of who would we cover more, but that wasn't the question. The question is, what's a bigger storyline? What's more compelling? What's a bigger storyline? And for me, it's not Tom Brady winning another one. It's a team that's never won one before, not even never won one, never even been there. It's been 12 teams in the NFL that have never won a Super Bowl, 4 teams that have never been to a Super Bowl. Houston, Jacksonville, Detroit have never been. And the 4th team that has never been, the Cleveland Browns. And if Cleveland, out of all those teams that have never even been, if Cleveland could go and win a Super Bowl, y'all remember, like talk about NBA. Remember when the Cavaliers won their first championship in 2016? How the world went crazy, Title Town. You remember that? Like that was crazy. Y'all remember like if Baker Mayfield, we cover all the time. It was crazy, bro. Like the Cleveland Cavaliers, like people talk about the Cowboys have the best fan base. Like Cleveland might be one of the best fan base cities in the world, right? Cleveland might be America's team in so many ways. So if the Cleveland Browns, they put a trash bag over their head, the Cleveland Browns go and win a Super Bowl, you're telling me that's not the most compelling storyline in the NFL, the most compelling storyline in sport? When they made the playoffs last year, that was a compelling storyline. When they beat Pittsburgh, that was a compelling storyline. And they're literally set up to do it. Out of all the teams that haven't done it, out of all the teams that haven't even been there, they're set up to do it. From an offensive standpoint, with Jarvis Landry, with Odell, with Baker. From a defensive standpoint, they got with Clowney, they got Newsome in the draft. Right? Like from an offensive, and then from a head coach, like that's my thing. Like we all talk about players and players and players. I talk about culture. Like I care about coaching and I care about culture. You tell me that Kevin Stefanski, from a coaching standpoint, from a culture standpoint, doesn't have that team set up to go win a Super Bowl right now? Like, I'm way more concerned about that story than Tom Brady winning another one. And yes, 8 is huge, right? Tom Brady having 7, phenomenal, unbelievable, amazing. But we've seen that story before. You know what a story we've never seen
Sancho,
before?
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm ready to move on from Tom Brady too, but Tom Brady won't allow us to. He will stay the most compelling guy because he's not letting us do it. Like Max had him falling off a cliff 4 years ago. Brady ain't fell off a cliff. All right. We said he was too old. He can't do it. He's still doing it. We said it was the system in New England. Had a lot to do with the championships. Then he went to Tampa and won. And now he going for 8. And remember this too. Stadium's gonna have people in them this year. And it's gonna be a totally different dynamic to football in general. That's why I'm so damn excited. I can't wait to start, bro. I cannot wait for next Thursday. It's so exciting. But when you think about, see you suffering from what a lot of people suffer from. You suffering from how fast we want to move on to the next story. But the story that matters is a quarterback 44 going for his 8th Super Bowl with a real shot at getting it. And I'm going to repeat, bro, 44 years old, going for his 8th Super Bowl. And you telling me, listen, I got the Browns as a dark horse Super Bowl contender. We don't have to have a discussion. You and I are in agreement. The Cleveland Browns, I believe, are going to be really good this year, and I think they're going to win their division. I got them picked to win it, even though the Ravens and the Steelers going to have something to say about it. But the bottom line is this, Sancho. And listen, man, when you go home, after this show at noon over, and you walking out of that studio, I want you to think about one thing. I want you to think about one thing about this discussion we having right now. If Cleveland wins a Super Bowl, the city of Cleveland and football community will be ecstatic. But in a few weeks, we'll move along. There will be a damn documentary and a movie in place, if it's not already one, if Tom Brady win 8, bro, in Tampa, with everybody there to watch and witness this potential accomplishment that he's going for. I get it, bro. I understand it. I don't want him to win the 8th because I always want Dallas to win the Super Bowl. But the bottom line is this. When we talk about the word compelling, and when we talk about the best Super Bowl story, people will agree because they Cleveland fans. And people will agree with you because Cleveland been starving for a long time for a good football team. There will be no bigger story than a 44-year-old quarterback winning his 8th Super Bowl. I promise you that, big dog.
Swagoo. At noon, I will be headed home after this. At noon, I will be leaving. And I won't be worried about if Tom Brady's going to get it. The documentary is already in the books, bro. He already got one book with 7. Whether he gets 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the documentary is already there. Yep. But what I'm talking about is a team that is, and you agree with me in so many ways, a team that has never done it. Like you got a guy like LeBron James coming and do it in Cleveland, right? I'm not saying Baker's LeBron, but you get a city like Cleveland. For me, that's something you will always, if Cleveland fans, football fans, wow, the year that the Cleveland Browns won a Super Bowl, maybe even over Tom Brady. That's the storyline that people care about.
Put it this way, if we get a Cleveland Tampa Bay Super Bowl, then both of you guys will probably spontaneously combust and really do something to each other if that actually happens. If we get a Cleveland versus Tampa Bay Super Bowl, which is not exactly.
And then Cleveland wins.
Yeah, and then
Cleveland beats Tom Brady.
Either way.
I'm not talking about that. Cleveland beats Tom Brady.
Either way, that's not exactly far-fetched. Maybe 5 years ago, but not far-fetched now.
Cleveland Browns beating Tom Brady. That's the biggest storyline ever.
Hey, listen.
Right there, guys.
I love the Cleveland Browns, but last time I checked, them Kansas City Chiefs refortified that offensive line.
And we'll see what happens.
Last time I checked, that's what they did.
And we don't need a phone call from the guys from Kansas City Chiefs telling that Patrick Mahomes is still the quarterback of that team. Speaking of hype trains, the Zach Wilson hype train in New York officially has this passenger. One former quarterback says he's seen enough tape, and he believes that Zach Wilson could be the next Patrick Mahomes. Who made that shocking comparison? That's going to be debated next on First Take. Plus, they're the 2 greatest football coaches of all time. Who has the more impressive resume? Is it Nick Saban in college or Bill Belichick in the NFL? That debate will be must-see TV. Analyst extraordinaire. He said, and I quote, I think Zach Wilson is going to be in the discussion as one of the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the league very quickly. Within the next couple of years, I think you're going to see him rise. I think he's unbelievable. His ceiling is so high. It's rare for me to say someone has the ability to get into the stratosphere of a Patrick Mahomes. But I think this kid actually has that ability, end quote, from Tony Romo, from an NFL quarterback, now current NFL analyst. So Sam Acho, we know that Zach Wilson turning a lot of heads. A lot of people impressed with him so far in the early part of the season. And we expect Josh Allen to be the best quarterback in the AFC East. But if that's going to be the case, who's going to be the second best quarterback in the AFC East this season?
Yeah, I think when you talk about who's the best and who's the worst, you base that, yes, off of how you play on the field, but also when it comes to wins and losses. So for me, I'm going with Mac Jones in this discussion. He's surrounded by so much. He's surrounded and protected by a running game. He's surrounded and protected by defense. He's surrounded and protected by proven commodities when it comes to a head coach in Bill Belichick, when it comes to the offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. Mac Jones, and who I didn't think he was going to start. I've said that before. I thought it was going to be Cam. But obviously his vote of confidence has got the check from Bill Belichick. I think Mac Jones will be the answer for that question of who's the second best quarterback in that division.
Listen, man, when I look at this situation in this division, and when I look at these quarterbacks, it's Zach Wilson for me too. I agree with Romo. I said it when I saw him play in some of these preseason games, man. He just has that thing. Like, I know it's the same thing I saw with Justin Fields. Like, it's something about these guys that they just understand and have a grasp based on their talent that they can be tremendous in this league. And when you look at Zach Wilson, the most important thing, and I think what actually won Mac the job in New England as well, is poise. But Zach Wilson, to me, and listen, since we making comparisons, since Mac Jones became the second coming of Tom Brady by Mel Kiper this morning on Get Up, I'm going to go ahead and say I see a lot of Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson based on the film that I've seen in the preseason. And yes, I get it. They not playing against the top tier talent, and it's going to be a different ball game when they get to that point. But when you see the ease in which he throws the football, when you see the poise that he has when he's having to move around, and still the arrogance and knowing that his arm is elite, the ability to push the ball down the field. And two, this thing is being built right. Vera Tucker, you got Big Mekhi Becton. You got a team that's being formulated and built with Robert Saleh and this staff with Douglas, the GM, that I believe this kid is going to be set up going forward as well as anybody in the AFC East and in the NFL, based on how they've drafted and the understanding that they have a franchise guy. I think Zach Wilson is going to gain the second best quarterback in this division when we get to week 5. We're going to start understanding why the New York Jets were always the team standing firm outside of Jacksonville on the quarterback they was taking. But when I'm watching film of him in this preseason and looking at the ease in which he plays the game, that is the similarities that I look for with the guys that, like Romo mentioned, with Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. And the one thing we all relate to both of those guys, and even when Deshaun was playing, that's a whole different situation with his stuff going on off the field. But Russell Wilson, when we talking about these top tier guys, one thing comes to mind for me. I'm not the guru QB evaluator like Dan Orlovsky or some of these QB guys, but I do look at when guys play the position with poise and ease, and that translates in the game of football, because what you want to see from young quarterbacks, especially guys that you're going to be leaning on early, is how is he when things are switching up and changing and we're throwing things at him differently, and then when he goes on the field, does his body follow the 1,000 miles an hour that his mind is going, or can he slow himself down and realize that I can do this, I've been doing this, and I can play at a very high level? That is what I get from Zach Wilson. So yeah, we could talk about arm strength, we could talk about the ability for him to throw off platform, the comparisons with Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. To me, this kid, a lot like Mac, has the ability to slow the game down. And if you talk to any veteran that's ever played in the NFL, they became better football players when the pandemonium and panic seemed to go away and you just focus on your job and doing it at a very high level. When I watch Zach Wilson in this preseason, and let me say this again, I know he's not playing against Xavier Howard and J.C. Jackson and Stephon Gilmore when he gets back healthy, and Tre'Davious White and Poirier Hyde. I know those guys didn't play against Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson is playing the quarterback position with so much confidence because he knows what his ability is. And I believe he's in a great situation with Mike LaFleur, especially with Robert Saleh leading that team. They're not going to allow this kid to fail, and they're going to build to make sure they protect him. He got a bright future. And I would say this. I ain't trying to be hot take and drop no bombshell. Zach Wilson in a few years will be in that same conversation with Josh Allen.
Okay,
booked me for saying that.
Well, two more people on the Zach Wilson hype train. Jets fans should be afraid. Be very afraid. Still to come on First Take. Which team is not getting enough love heading into the upcoming NFL season? We're talking only Nick Saban can talk about a college football program as an organization, but when it comes to organizing, these two are the best at it. Bill Belichick on one side, Nick Saban on the other side. They have been head coaches in their respective leagues for 26 years, with Saban edging out Belichick in the big one when it comes to championships, 7 for Nick Saban and 6 for Bill Belichick. But when it comes to these two GOATs in coaching, GOAT as greatest of all times, undoubtedly, they are where they're supposed to be. But Marcus, I'll start with you. Which resume is more impressive, the rings on Saban's fingers or the rings on Belichick's fingers?
Y'all know who the hell I'm going to say. I don't even know why y'all asked me this question. Y'all should just ask me to talk about Nick Saban. Okay? Listen, it's Nick, man. And one, because I understand what the atmosphere and the landscape of college football is. No, it's not harder on the field to win a college championship, especially in Nick Saban's case when you get all of these recruits. But it's harder in the NFL to win on the field. But you can control a lot more in the NFL and setting up yourself and giving yourself a chance to win. I've had this conversation before with a lot of people. Not the first time that I've had this question. The reason why I believe it's much more difficult and Nick Saban's success is more about what he has the ability to do and the staff around him more so than Bill Belichick. One, I mean, let's get the obvious out the way. Bill Belichick was able to keep Tom Brady for as long as he could. Bill Belichick has the ability to choose players that he wants to be on his team. Nick Saban has to go out and recruit 16, 17-year-old kids, hope that they come to his university, and hope that they pan out to be all of these guys that we see. See, we got it misconstrued because we've seen the success for so long. So we think that it's just automatic that these things are going to happen for Alabama each and every year, and we don't look at the work that's being done. From an evolution of an offensive standpoint, bringing in Lane Kiffin when everybody was like, what the hell wrong with Nick Saban? Well, you understand and identified, I got to score points now in college football. When I played for him in 2003 and we won a national championship, you can win championships on defense. I don't think that's the case anymore, fellas. You got to be able to put some points on the board. The third thing is, when you get these kids, yeah, they were good in high school, but what the hell are they going to be when they get to college against all of these other five-star recruits? Nick Saban competition level within his own building is between guys that were number one in the country coming out and number one in the country in the new incoming freshman class. And not to mention this, okay? When we start talking about the college landscape, right? Yeah, there's a handful of programs and a handful of teams in college that you know are going to be pretty good. As long as things didn't fall off a cliff, you know that you're gonna have to go against these teams and potentially see them in the college football playoff, or when I was playing the BCS and all of that. The one thing I saw Nick Saban do more than anybody, and I don't think you have to do it on this level in the NFL as much as you have to do in college, you have to manage maturity. Like, you have to, every single day, it's something. Look, these college coaches get paid a lot of money. I don't want nobody to feel sorry for them. But if you knew the amount of things that they had to manage in order to get to a game on Saturday, or the things that come across their desk, not to mention kids having to be eligible in school and graduation rates and family, kids wanting to go back home because they homesick. All of these things you deal with in college football. And for this man to win 7, for him to win 7, and every single year, you know, every team in college with the hopes and dreams of winning a national championship is gunning for you. And you specifically, you are the bull's eye every time you take the field, whether that team got a chance to beat you or whether they have no chance in hell to beat you. And he's managed for this. And remember this too, fellas, in the years he didn't win a national championship, he was in the semifinal or it was only one loss on the schedule, on the record. So listen, I've had this conversation. It's a great argument on both sides. It's much more difficult to continue to be this successful in college because you're changing out classes every 4 years. You may be changing out quarterbacks every 2 years. And yes, he recruits at a very high level, but you know what you got to do to recruit at a high level? You got to go all day long, all year long, every day, including winning and trying to play games at the same time. Nick Saban is more impressive of what he's done in college football than Bill Belichick in the NFL.
I think you're just saying that because that's your coach. Like, I feel like, like straight up, like all that sounded good. I mean, that's your coach.
That's a good one. That's a good one, Sancho. That's a good one.
It's your coach, right? He didn't coach me, so I don't see it the same way. You know what I mean? Like, in college, Swagoo, like, and anyone watching at home, in college, you know who's going to be in the national championship, or at least that Final Four, pretty much every single year, right? So we know that. It's a given, number one. Number two, you talk about recruiting and how hard it is. Everybody wants to go to Alabama, bro. Everybody. Like, it's not hard to recruit the best player.
Bro, don't say that's blasphemous. That's blasphemous.
They ain't trying to go to LSU now.
Not to me.
They ain't trying to go to LSU now.
Not to me. They going. Yeah, they are. They going. They going to Ohio State. They going to Clemson. They going other places. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
99% of players, if Alabama recruits them, they're saying yes. Right?
Exactly.
99%. Why?
Exactly.
Because Alabama is low-key an NFL team. Like Alabama, they get 9, 10 guys getting drafted every year. Alabama's an NFL team playing against high schoolers oftentimes. So if you're not playing against the SEC, or if you're not playing against the top 25, Alabama's rolling over everybody. It's the reason why they say any given Sunday, and they don't say any given Saturday, because we know on Saturday who's about to win. And so now let me present my case for Bill Belichick. Earlier, Swagoo, you talked about the number 8. You gave this real long, elaborate pause. You said 8. Sam, go home and think about 8. Bill Belichick got 8 rings, bro. He got 6 as a head coach and 2 as a coordinator. He has 8. 8. That's a lot. That's a lot. Not only is it a lot in life, but in the NFL, where when you win championships, you don't go and get the best recruits. When you win championships, you're the last in the draft. You're the 32nd pick in the draft. You don't get a chance to get the best guys. You're missing all the best recruits in so many ways. And so to win 8, and let's say as a head coach, call it 6 championships for 20 years in the NFL, where you're playing against professionals. You're playing against people who get paid to do this, not people who, man, I'm just happy I made it to LSU and I'm on campus and the girls like, no, not that, bro. We're talking about people who get paid to do this for a living. And number one. Number two, like, and I get it, because I went back and forth on this as well. I'm thinking, man, they're both, you could make an argument for both of them. I get it. But like, Bill Belichick is still doing it, and so is Nick Saban. But like, bro, with whoever, like right now people are saying, man, you just said that team, New England, might just go win their division without Tom Brady, with Mac Jones, right? Like it is impossible to win in the NFL. It's rare. It's rare. And I think a better conversation could be like, is it harder to go to the Super Bowl or national championship? I played against Nick Saban in 2009 in the national championship. I played at Texas. I played against Alabama, and they beat us. And I was like, man, that's a dominant team. They had a bunch of dudes go to the NFL from that team, and we did too that year, and they've stayed dominant. So I'm impressed by everything you said with Nick Saban, everything you said. But the only difference is that in college, at least in high school as well, everyone wants to go to Alabama. You see those facilities in Alabama, bro. Why wouldn't you want to show up? Whereas New England, it's like, it's parity. It's like free agency. You got to sign guys. Guys have to stay. Tom Brady's taking pay cuts to stay. So it's like, it's much more difficult, in my opinion, to win, to go to the Super Bowl in the NFL than it is to win or go to a national championship in college. In college, we know who's going to be there. Alabama, Clemson, LSU, maybe here and there. Throw them in if you want to. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. Like, you know those teams are going. But in the NFL, you don't know who it's going to be. You never know.
I got this for you guys. If I had to have one guy coaching for my life, I'm taking Nick Saban. I'll start with you, Sam. One game for your life. Are you taking Saban or are you taking Belichick?
Man, that's a great question. One game for my life. I mean, the thing is, I'm taking Saban because Saban got all these recruits. Saban got the best recruits. I know I got guys who are going to the NFL already. Whereas Belichick, he may not have Brady, right? Like, Saban gets everyone he wants. Like, I think, like, I am not discrediting Nick Saban or his greatness. Like, Nick Saban is, like you said, probably the greatest college quarterback. But But Alabama has the best players. And New England doesn't always have the best players. But you're coaching a team.
Listen. Acho, you comparing how difficult it is to win in the NFL on the field, and I agree with you. We all that's why it's the pros and that's why it's college. But it's more into this conversation than just winning on the field. There are so many different varying factors that Nick Saban has to deal with that Bill Belichick doesn't. Bill Belichick had $150 million to spend in free agency. Even if you didn't want to go to New England, if they said we're going to give you 5 years, $70 million, you going to New England. That's where you're going to go. If you got a quarterback in the NFL, we all understand you don't have one, you don't have a shot to win a championship. Bill Belichick had the best one in the last 2 decades. He had the best one. So that he had a chance going into it every year, dominated his division. You look at all of the players, and listen, there is absolutely validity to him identifying talent and being able to get guys to come to New England and play. But that money damn sure helped. And those Super Bowls that you knew you had a chance to win with Tom Brady damn sure helped. Bill Belichick had to recruit to a certain extent, but Bill Belichick had a lot of things in place, i.e., Tom Brady, to cause a lot of guys to come to that organization and win a championship. And he was able to coach them up and get them there where they needed to be in the Super Bowl. Bro, I'm telling you right now, and you know this, deep down in your heart, you don't know what the hell a 17-year-old gonna be thinking from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, let alone trying to get him to go through a 15-week, 16, 17-week season to go win a national championship. We got guys in college now that are saying, look, man, I ain't playing in this bowl game. I'm going to the league. That's a whole nother element that's involved in this. But you know who don't deal with that? Nick Saban, because he's figured out a way from a mental standpoint to get these kids to buy in. And listen, yes, it's every coach that you'll ever have on every show will say, we got to have players to win championships. That's why I always say it's about the players. It's been about Tom Brady more than Bill Belichick since the beginning. That the guy that has to go execute is the guy under the most pressure when all of the accolades and the stats and all of that stuff come about. But the things Nick Saban has to deal with are way more. I'm talking, you know this, Freddie, you know this. It's way more delicate in college to get these kids to perform each and every week at a high level. And the fact that he's been able to do that for the last 20 years, to me, that's the hardest thing to do in coaching. Because 16 and 17 years old, bro, listen, I got a 14-year-old, just started high school. At 8 a.m., she loved me. Daddy, hugs, kisses. Dad, can you take me to school? Let's talk about it. And at 8:40, man, I can't stand this dude. I can't wait to get out of this house. I can't wait to go to college. And look, I'm not, for real though, man, my point is, an example is, the management from Nick Saban is 10 levels above the management that Bill Belichick has to do. Because me and you and Freddie will agree on this. It's easier to manage when that damn paycheck on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear you on the management and the hour example, phenomenal. But the thing I think that we're missing, just to get a little bit more nuance, like you were going with there, Swagoo, a lot of people have tried the Patriot way, and it hasn't worked. Bill O'Brien tried the Patriot way, and it hasn't worked. We're seeing with Joe Judge trying the Patriot way, and so far, it hasn't worked. Even Brian Flores, from what little we know, it hasn't worked. And so for a coach, a grown man, to come in and coach other grown men who are making sometimes more than you, right? In college, I had a coach, Will Muschamp. He said we were doing this in college, training camp, all the preseason stuff, right? And Champ, Champ, of course. And we were making mistakes, all this stuff, doing our own thing, right? Coming late, all these things. And Muschamp said, see, right now, y'all are doing what you want to do. That's what y'all are doing. When it comes to decide who's going to start on this team, he said, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's the difference, right? In the NFL, players are getting paid. You sometimes got to start the guys that make the most money, right? You got to do that. But in the NFL with Bill Belichick, He's created this system that no one else can replicate. Guys who are getting paid $20, $30, and $40 million and they're grown. I'm a grown man. They're listening to another grown man tell them what to do. Be on time, do your job, show up. And everyone else has tried that in the NFL, and it has not worked. In college, you will do whatever because you want to get that money. You want to get that money in college. Man, all right, Saban, I got you. Let me go get drafted. They already got paid in the NFL, and they're still listening.
To your point, you bring something to my mind, Sacho. Your point, Mac Jones is the next thing. We're going to see if it worked. But as of right now, Tom Brady was responsible for a lot of that situation in New England.
Great stuff, gentlemen. And staying in the AFC East, we're talking all things AFC next, and it goes to the Fighting Bill Belichick. Are they a legit threat to Josh Allen and the Bills this season? Will that Bill?
You and I, we are not alike. No, you don't shine when they hit the lights. I don't make myself bleed for this life and these kind of nights. You just okay, but I'm kind of nice.
Throws a man down. Let's call it. Dives and he catches it. Guns it long for the end zone. Touchdown.
We are 7 days away, only 1 week away from the start of the NFL season 2021. And check out Sam Acho's top 5 quarterbacks by the end of the season. Patrick Mahomes 1, Aaron Rodgers 2, Tom Brady 3, Josh Allen 4, and Justin Herbert only 1 year out of college at number 5. Marcus Swagoo. Will Justin Herbert be a top 5 quarterback by the end of this year?
It's not far-fetched, man, but no, dude. Talk about Russell earlier in this show. Like, what happened to Russell Wilson? Sacho, tell me what happened to Russell Wilson, please. Just let me know what happened to Russell Wilson, and then we could have a conversation going forward.
No, nothing happened to Russell Wilson. And I think Russell Wilson, honestly, on this list, like he could have been like that B, like in that B conversation, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B. Even you could even flip him if you'd like. No, straight up. I'm so serious because the thing is, like, so
Bro.
yes. So let's start with Justin Herbert. Last year as a rookie, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Last year as a rookie, over 4,300 yards as a rookie. And then now you add in a coach like Brandon Staley. You talk about great coaches, like Brandon Staley coached me. And yes, people talk about he's this phenomenal defensive mind and all these things. That dude played quarterback. So like he approaches defenses. The reason why that LA Rams defense was number 1, the reason why the Bears defense he coached back in 2018 was number 1, or at least he was the outside linebacker coach for, is because he approaches defenses from a quarterback's perspective. And so what he talked about, even in his interviews beforehand, is that he's approaching this relationship as the quarterback-coach relationship as the most important relationship when it comes to winning games. And so you've got a coach like Brandon Staley, sure, defensive mind, but offensive player, number 1. Number 2, Joe Lombardi, what they've talked about is we're going to implement and employ some of these same like New Orleans kind of mismatch systems, how we're going to find and mismatch and exploit it. We're going to do that with the LA Chargers. So we're doing that. And then obviously the phenomenal arm talent that we all talked about. Earlier in the show, you talked about how Justin Herbert is going to be the comparison when we talked about some of these other quarterbacks like Tua. And so by the end of the season, sure, Russell may be in that conversation. I have no issue with Russell. You could even swap him out in some ways for Josh Allen if you would like. When it comes to when the season ends and this is all said and done, you got top 5 quarterbacks, I do have Justin Herbert in that conversation.
That's why, listen, man. That's why I ain't going to go crazy and get livid because I do see the talent with Justin Herbert. But what makes me go crazy, the fact that we know Russell Wilson is going to play at a top 5 level. Like, unless something catastrophic happens, Sacho. Like, because everything we done watch Russell Wilson career transpire, it's been top 5 quarterback play. And I know it's like everybody last year. He was leading the MVP race for a large majority of that season and things fell apart. He had to carry a team with a bad defense. But here's the issue I have with it, though, I guess, right? So Justin Herbert played lights out of his mind. And he was magnificent. And the Chargers can move forward knowing that they have a franchise guy. If you want to even talk about talent, if you want to go talent, Justin Herbert probably has more talent than Russell Wilson as well. Josh Allen has more talent when we talk about arm strength and the things like that. But Russell Wilson does have I think the second best deep ball in the league, if not one, to Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson has done this at a high level. He is a Super Bowl champion. He does have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett still there. He has a refortified offensive line. And we know that Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback without having to put a damn list together. We don't even have to have a list about who the top 5 quarterbacks are if Russell Wilson is not in it. So I get it. I understand that you projected that Justin Herbert, when it's all said and done at the end of the season, may be top 5. I just don't know what warrants that when Russell Wilson is still playing for the Seattle Seahawks. Based on what? I told like your hopes and dreams? Like Drake album dropping tomorrow? Is that what you're hoping for? Because we know Russell Wilson is going to be in the top 5 conversation.
Well, we also know this when it comes to the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills. Many people have the even money on them. But the Patriots, they gave out stimulus packages in the offseason to try to bring in key players to make sure that Buffalo does not make it back-to-back. And now they turn the rookie Mac Jones guys to lead the offense. So, Marcus, real quick, are the Patriots a legit threat? Not to just be a threat to Buffalo in the AFC East, but maybe to win the division.